Welcome everybody to the second First Canada Ask the Experts webinar of the 2019 season, I guess. As always, we are recording this and we will put the recording on the First Canada YouTube channel, and we will put out on the First Canada Facebook page exactly where that is if you don't already know. One of the things that I wanted to mention again, as we do every time, and I'll probably mention it several times as we go through as people join us, is that if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat box. We will get to them as we go along. Most of the questions we hope are going to be about our event, the events that we're going to talk about tonight, but please add questions in. I may answer them offline, but we will definitely get to them. If you are a mentor and you don't have some of your students listening in tonight, you should encourage them to do so. They might have some questions that you might not have, and they might have some points that they would want to make that we, I'll speak for myself here, as older people may not think about, so that would be helpful. And lastly, if you do have some suggestions as to what you would like to see on future webinars or hear on future webinars, please do not hesitate to contact me, and you'll see my contact information at the end if you don't know it. And at some point during today's webinar, we're going to ask a question about something that was said or something that appeared in the webinar, so that you can email me and win a prize. First Canada swag, which a couple of panelists and I were talking about before we started tonight. So without much more delay, today's session is off-season events. So we're going to talk about 3 off-season events that are upcoming. There is another off-season event that occurred at the CNE this summer, and we're going to have a recap of that event a little bit later on in the season of Ask the Expert webinars, just so that people that were involved can tell us about it and what they may have planned for next year. So here we go. We have 3 experts with us today. Vance Scott.
I'm honored.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Vance Scott, who is the principal of Victoria Park Collegiate Institute. And it is a collegiate institute, right, Vance?
It is indeed.
It is. And that's in on the border of North York and Scarborough. And he is also one of the lead mentors of Team 4914 from the same school, and has assisted with many other schools and has had various other roles in First Canada before he got to Victoria Park Collegiate. Eventually joining us, because she's like the busiest woman in First Canada, will be Sherry Lynn Koszelski from Windsor. She is a first senior mentor, usually abbreviated to the acronym FSM. There are 6 of them in Ontario. I'm one. So is George Chisholm in Oakville, Heather Kelso in North Bay, Sherry Lynn I mentioned. In Toronto, we have at the TDSB Annika Pint. We also have Melissa Douglas in the West End, and I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing?
Did you get George?
I did get George. Well, it'll come to me, but I believe there are 6. Anyways, hopefully that person's not listening in, just so you know. And Sherry Lynn is one of the many Koszelskis. She's the matriarch of the Koszelski family, all of whom are involved in some fashion in First Canada. And then we have Matt Ciprietti, who is a teacher. I believe it's at St. Mary's, Matt.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And one of the lead mentors of the very colorful and successful Team 4039 makeshift robotics out of the aforementioned Hamilton. Anyways, is there anything, Vance, you want to add to your description that I...
You did a wonderful job. So, I mean, I guess I'm also the treasurer of First Canada, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about off season. So,
Right. And Matt, anything else? Do you like
Nope,
play? Do you play a musical instrument or anything like that, Matt?
not since high school.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
I played a mean sax at the time.
oh,
Got to say, yeah,
that's good. I didn't know that.
hidden talents.
I see. Okay, so the first of the events coming up is the Fall Fiesta. And as you can see, it's at Victoria Park Collegiate. If you've never been there, it's not very far away. It's just right off the well, since I'm in Newmarket, I keep saying 404, but it really is at that point, the Don Valley Parkway. And as I've mentioned, Vance Scott is a principal, and he has lots of other people from the school helping him. But maybe, Vance, you can tell us a little bit about, since I guess this is a special year, a little bit about the history of the Fall Fiesta.
Sure. Vic Park, just to clarify, is basically the DVP and just south of the 401. So sort of centrally located, easy access, and there's a few hotels around if you're coming from out of town as well. With respect to the history, this is our 5th year. And we started it 5 years ago after a big hiatus with off seasons because many years ago, in fact, I believe I was serving as regional director. We used to do it at Canada's Wonderland, which was a very fun event. Fun because not only did folks get to participate in an off season, but they also got into Wonderland. And my children still say to me, why are you not doing that robotics full time instead of being a principal? It was much funner to go to Wonderland, but Wonderland doesn't work anymore, unfortunately, because of the Fright Nights and the Halloween stuff that they do. And so now we're at Vic Park, as well as a number of other places that you're going to hear about later on. So like I said, this is our 5th year. After the first year or so, we actually split into, we did two events. A junior, and I believe we called it a senior at that time. Then we added Hamilton and Windsor, and so we were a little bit concerned that we wouldn't get enough teams, so we shrunk back down to a single event, but the off-season phenomena seems to just be growing and growing, and so we went back to a junior event on the Friday and a varsity event on the Saturday. And I know Hamilton is full as well. I know that because my team tried to get in and we didn't get in. So that's good news for everybody. That's all right. That's all right. They did get into the Windsor event, so we will get to play in an off season this year. We're not sure actually if we're actually going to participate in our event because we're just trying to get as many people involved as possible. So we'll see how that goes. But it's been 5 really fun years. I'm not sure what the future is going to hold going forward, but I know that it's certainly had a very positive impact on our community, and we certainly enjoy hosting the off-season event. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of reward in it as well. Did you want me to keep covering the stuff that I'm seeing on the slide here, Paul?
Well, that would be good. Then people wouldn't have to listen to me. So I would appreciate that.
So like you see there, it says a junior event and a varsity event. The junior event is the Friday, and we did sort of publish some guidelines as to who would be most suited for each event. And the junior event is for teams that I think we published sort of we divided the results from this year's competition into 3 groupings, sort of the lower third, the top third, and the middle third. The middle third could go either way, and the top third should probably look at the varsity event and the bottom at the junior event. And so that naturally leads to the junior event will be a little bit less intense, but a wonderful opportunity. It's on a Friday, and we're thinking that this will be a great opportunity for schools that aren't even involved in FIRST Robotics yet. Can you imagine that? But those schools can potentially come as a field trip and check out the action. And you know, our experience is when people see FIRST Robotics live, it's hard not to get really excited about it. So we're hoping that the junior event will be a real good opportunity to attract new teams. Of course, it's an awesome opportunity for teams that either have had some turnover or they're just new members. Gives them an opportunity to get a feel for what the events are like and how intense they are. knowing that the real competition is even more intense. Then the next day, we'll have the varsity event on the Saturday, and we expect because it is populated mostly with teams that finish pretty high up in the rankings. We expect the competition to be a little bit more intense, and we do sort of as a incentive for the junior event. We've said that the winning alliance captain and their first pick will be offered a free spot in the varsity event as well. Why should new teams come, even if they're not competing? I think I covered that a little bit. It's a real good opportunity to see a lot of teams in action, see what it's all about, get ideas about how they might want to structure their team. We do keep the event quite similar to an actual FRC competition. It certainly isn't quite as intense, and some of the rules are a little bit different, but it certainly is the best way to see what it's really like. And just as much as we're encouraging people to bring their students and other teams, we also use it as an opportunity to bring potential sponsors in to see what the FIRST Robotics program is all about. What is the cost to watch? It's free. You can come. Friday, school will be on, so it'll be a little bit crowded, and I need to talk about parking in a second. But there should be parking, and if there isn't right at the school, you can park at a local mall. It's about a 5-minute walk. But if you really can't make it to the school, we'll be webcasting as well, so you should be able to see it on the webcast. One thing I wanted to mention is, as I look out the window here right now at the school, our north parking lot, which folks would know that have been here would know that's where our practice field is. The access to it is getting replaced right now. They've promised it'll be done by the 17th. I'm not sure with the rainy weather if they're going to hold true or not, but we're certainly counting on that. But if it's not finished, we'll have a alternative entrance, which is just sort of around behind on the other side of the school. So it shouldn't be a problem. Stay tuned. We'll let folks know what the situation with that is. One thing I wanted to take the opportunity, we are still looking for volunteers, especially experienced volunteers. And I would say set up on a Thursday. We need people that are experienced in setting up the field, especially this year's field. And then we need referees on Friday and Saturday. Our school certainly provides a lot, but those two roles have some skills that are required to go along with them. And so if there are folks out there that have some experience, we would love to bring you on as volunteers, and we'll feed you handsomely. And the last thing is, will there be First Canada swag? And I didn't know the answer to that until just recently, and the answer is yes, absolutely there will be. So bring your cash and get some new First swag.
So I have a couple of questions for you. One is from a listener. What time exactly will they start, or where can they find information about start times and end times for both days?
Yeah, it starts about 8 a.m. each day, and we're hoping it'll be done around 4 to 5 p.m. The Saturday could go a little bit longer, but I would say it's going to all be done by 6 p.m. for sure. As far as finding out information, maybe I think if you go to the First Canada website, there's a link. It's a Google Doc. I know that people are able to find it because every time I go on, I see 3 or 4 people are logged into it. But if it's not readily available, I'll get that information for you, Paul.
So a couple more questions. In terms of the volunteers, if high school students volunteer, will they get community service hours?
Absolutely, they will. Please don't ask me about skipping school to come. You can't ask.
Well, I meant more about Saturday, but
yeah, okay. I've already had that asked a few times, and I really don't want to answer that question. I know Mark Twain once said you should never let school interfere with your education, but I don't know if that argument would work if you're setting up the field. But we would love to have volunteers, and volunteer hours, absolutely.
And for people that attend the events on Friday and Saturday, is there food being sold at the event?
Yes, there is. We're going to put a thing out, especially for the Friday, because our cafeteria will be open. But we're hoping not to really tell them that we're all going to be invading the place, and we're going to make arrangements with pizza and samosas and whatnot for pre-ordering. And those that have been here before know that there's a McDonald's and an A&W and a Pizza and a whole bunch of, and Tim Hortons, all really within, and a Subway and a Mr. Sub, all within walking distance of the facility.
Well, that's good. It sounds. I know I've been there many times, and like you say, I've brought teams that were teachers that were thinking about starting teams, and they are always surprised by being right there close to the floor and hearing the noises and seeing the pieces of robots left on the field after the fact.
It's a lot of fun, and we'll have the full audio visual and the webcast, as I mentioned. So even if you can't make it, you can still go online and see it.
And I believe there's a new, better definition camera that's going to be used.
Oh yes, one with a automatic rotate that you can control with your cell phone.
Wow, that sounds like a very high-tech place, Victoria Park Collegiate. So if anybody listening is interested, or they know people that might be interested, by all means come. It's not very far if you're in the Toronto area. It's quite easy to get to for the most part, and it really gives you a good idea of what an event is like if you've never been to one. And bring anybody that you can. It's a fun event. So thank you, Vance, for that. We're going to continue on. And we're going to skip past Sandwich because I don't think Sherry Lynn's with us. And we're now joined by Matt Ciprietti from St. Mary Catholic School in Hamilton and mentor of Team 4039. So maybe, hello, Matt, you could tell us a little bit about your event and the history of it.
Sure. So this is the fourth annual STEMley Cup Championship held at St. Mary's. We, I guess, back when after the first off season, well, first that I've experienced anyway, the one that was at Victoria Park, a few people on our team started, putting our heads together and thinking, hey, it would be nice if maybe we could host one of these things. So we put a proposal together to try to to make the case for running an event here, and we brought on Team 5406 Celtex as well as a partner in the event, and put it forward to First Canada, and they said, yeah, you guys can run an event, and kind of sort of the rest is history there. Like I said, this is the fourth time we've been doing it, and we've been making some incremental improvements year to year to try to improve the team experience and the audience experience, that kind of thing. And I'm pretty happy with how it's evolved over the years. So we're really excited to host it once again, and we think it'll be a lot of fun yet again.
Anything that's new this year at the event?
We always try to do something a little bit new. I'll talk about rule changes in a second. We always do something fun in terms of our STEMley rules. This year we're just like as usual, we'll be having displays in our front foyer from McMaster Engineering and some other outside groups. That's something we've done in the past. We'll have our CAF open for overflow seating, and we'll have at least a portion of a practice field in there again, most likely for our teams. We're trying to experiment with a few things to alleviate some of the seating concerns. Because it's a very well attended event, and the stands and the bleachers in the gym get full very fast. So we've brought in. In the past, we've brought in temporary ones that actually are used out on our outdoor football field, and we're trying to see if we can optimize that a little bit more this year as well, because we want everyone to, as many people as possible to be in the gym seeing the action live, but where that's not possible, they can always just go over to our cafeteria where we have the video feed and have a little bit more of a more comfortable spread out experience watching it on video. But aside from that, there's not a lot of truly new things. We're still going to continue doing the little minute to win it type games between matches to try to alleviate some of the lulls in the game, that kind of thing. By last year, I think we had requests to play more songs like, the traditional dancing favorites like Cotton Eye Joe and stuff like that. So I guess we'll try to incorporate more of those this year, because FRC kids, of course, love their dancing between matches. So we'll make sure to take that suggestion to heart.
So Matt,
yeah.
so can you play the Cotton Eye Joe on your saxophone?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
Well,
but I guess I have a month to learn. So,
I'd like to see that.
All right, I'll see what I can do just for you. Wow, it's my first request. So honored. Anyway. So yeah, pretty much the similar thing to what we've done in the past, and hopefully again we have everyone has a good time, and we're always looking for ways to improve. So if anyone has any suggestions, feel free to send them our way.
And you have rule changes? Is that what you're...
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, okay, so every year STEMley does some new rules, something different, something that doesn't change the scoring dynamic of the game dramatically and doesn't require a redesign of the robot in order to accomplish, but something that just adds a different layer to the strategy of what could be, of the way the game could be played. We have a few just I guess you could say more standard ones that we've adopted from other events like IRI and TRI, things that just help address a few of the annoyances from the regular season. And you can find all this actually on our website for the event at STEMleyCup.ca. But one of the major ones that probably people will, especially scale bots, will appreciate is the idea that teams aren't penalized for tipping the scale towards the opponent's side, or when it clearly doesn't change the scoring state of the scale, meaning that if you're placing a cube on the scale and you bump it, and it's clearly on your side and didn't tip it to the opponent's side, didn't change the outcome of the scale, then that's not a penalty, as opposed to it being a foul every time you accidentally clipped your robot's arm on the edge of your scale when you're placing a cube. So that's one. There are a couple other smaller ones as well, and then there's the sort of, like I said, the fun one, the one that changes the strategy a little bit, and that's what we call this year our STEMley Super Cubes. So the Super Cubes, we always try to incorporate somehow a game piece that's now suddenly turned red or blue in color. So we have two special STEMley Super Cubes, one with a red fabric cover, one with a blue fabric cover, and we tried to find fabric that was as close to the original yellow as possible. And the idea behind this is, before the match starts, one of your Alliance color Super Cube will be placed in one of your two Alliance portals. You get to decide which one you want to put it in, and it just takes the place of one of the regular yellow power cubes. And then in the last 30 seconds of the match, you can introduce the Super Cube through the portal, and now it can be scored like a regular power cube, but you get a bonus for scoring this. So how it basically works is, if you have the Super Cube on your Switch, then what it's going to do is score 5 additional bonus points for every regular yellow power cube that's already on the Switch plate, up to a maximum of 50 points. So it's essentially, it acts as a multiplier. Scoring it on the scale, or sorry, on the Switch, excuse me, will multiply the points of the cubes on that scale, or for every yellow cube on that scale, you get 5 additional bonus points, up to a maximum of 50. And then it's the same thing basically for the scale. Placing the Super Cube on the scale will multiply whatever number of power cubes you have on the scale by 5 points to give you that little extra point bonus. So that'll all be added manually by the refs after. It probably won't be able to be added. It definitely won't be able to be added to the automated, real-time scoring, but it gives you these extra little bonus points at the end of the match. So it adds another little layer of strategy, because it's a bit of a gamble, right? You have to introduce in the last 30 seconds. Can you get your robot to pick up that cube and score it in that amount of time and get the bonus, and then maybe still make it to the platform or make it to hang or something like that. So it gives you a bit more strategic leverage for how you want to play the game and score those end game points.
So who came up with this rule, Matt? It's like some kind of mad scientist.
Yeah, it's just some of us just from the teams just kind of sitting down and and just brainstorming. We actually had a few other ideas as well. What we really wanted to do originally, because we thought it would just be hilarious. And we've seen some other teams do this too. They came up with the idea independently as well, is to create sort of a radio-controlled cube. So one that actually like will drive around the field, and it has to be chased, kind of like like the snitch in Quidditch and Harry Potter, that kind of thing. So you actually have to chase it around the field and pick it up and score it. And if you do catch it and score it, then you'd get bonus points. But that's going to be that would be heavy, and it could damage something. So we didn't want people to have to redesign their robots around it, and there were a whole bunch of other theoretical problems that people came up with that. So as much as we would have loved to do their little radio-controlled cubes being driven around the field, we decided against it. Although that we actually, one of the ideas we had for that too was to have the technician drive it, because then it gives the technician something to do during the match rather than just sit back and watch. So sorry, technicians. Unfortunately, you have to sit out these ones again, but we do appreciate all the work that you do keeping your team's robots alive.
So do you send these ideas off to Frank Merrick at first to say, hey, Frank, what about this?
No. I wonder if he'd be interested. I don't know.
Well,
but,
on October 11th, when he's on the webinar, that will be definitely one of the things I ask him, but people are welcome to ask him questions. But that's a great
other off
idea.
seasons have other off seasons have come up with some fun ideas as well. But we wanted to do something that kind of balanced the scoring opportunities, right? Because not every robot can climb or can carry another robot. So we wanted to do have a different way of achieving those end game points that would give teams that have different abilities a chance to get some bonus in the last 30 seconds.
So where do most of your teams come from? The Hamilton and Oakville area, or are they from
all over? Yeah, it's we have a really diverse crew, pretty much all over Southern Ontario. We have Toronto teams, Hamilton teams, and then also some American teams. We have a couple of we have one Michigan team, 2604 Metal and Soul, that's come for the past I think all 4 years, at least the last 3 years. They always come over from Michigan, and we're always very happy to have them. For the last 2 years, Team 3015 Ranger Robotics has come up from New York, near Rochester, I think they are, Spencerport, I believe. And so they're a fantastic team, and we're, again, always happy to have them as well. Another thing that we do at STEMley that we're very proud of is we try to incorporate pre-rookie teams. So these are teams that have never played before. This is their first year they're going into it first. They don't have a robot yet. So what we do is we let them use our robots. So 4039 and 5406 aren't competing in the event. Instead, our robots are available for these pre-rookies, these three pre-rookies, to be able to drive. So our drive teams, instead of driving, are basically coaching and teaching the kids how to maintain the robot in the pits, how everything works. So it's kind of like a hands-on, side-by-side experience of an experienced team, handing over the robot to these rookies who maybe have never seen one before, and letting them drive, letting them learn how to maintain it, and letting them go and have fun with it. Because we always say the best way to get someone really into first is to bring them to an event. Well, an even better way to get them into first is let them, drive a robot at the event and really see what it's all about. So we hope to inspire these pre-rookies to, to great things this year.
So do you recall which teams are those, the ones that are going to be driving the robots?
Yeah, so one of them is I don't know team numbers yet. I actually have the pre-rookie or the this year's team numbers been assigned already?
Well, if they haven't picked Durham as their first event, then they have, because
okay,
they all have numbers by now. So
okay, I haven't checked yet, but I know where they're from. One of the teams will be from Woodstock, the rookie from there, and another one is actually from Six Nations Polytechnic in Brantford. Team that we've been talking to for the past year or so, trying to get them into first. And another one will actually be from our own school board, from the sixth of the 7 high schools in our board that will be starting an FRC team, and that'll be St. Thomas More.
So St. Thomas More is 7623, and the First Nations team from Brantford is 7509. and the team
Okay.
from Woodstock is 74-75.
Okay, great.
There's a test on that map.
Thanks. Now that the numbers are assigned, I'll add it to the website. I checked it a couple of weeks ago, but they weren't. They were still the provisional numbers.
Yeah,
I will
I'll
get
send
them
you
up
them
there.
if you want.
Great, thanks. And what was the last question up here? Is this event always the last? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the question. It always seems to be the last one.
Yeah, it has been traditionally, which is also kind of fun in a way because we have to pack. Well, actually, it's going to be a little bit different this year, but we always have ended up packing sort of two sets of trucks. One that has to go back to the First Canada warehouse in Mississauga, and one that gets packed up and goes right back to Manchester, New Hampshire, back to First HQ to return the field electronics and components to get ready for next year's game. So yeah.
Right. So
we're happy.
Don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Those two situations, that First Canada does have warehouse space at Studebaker and Mississauga where we keep the fields that we have, and also that some of the pieces every year have to make their way back across the border into New Hampshire where First is headquartered in the States. Yep. That's good to know.
Yes, and sadly we can't give out the power cubes this year at the end of the last year we were very there was a lot of fuel to give away, but the cubes themselves are being repurposed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So just a couple of the same questions for Vance. Is there food at your event that people that come and watch can buy?
Oh, yep. Yeah, we'll have concessions. And we also have pre-orders as well. It'll be available. They'll be sent out in the team update emails. And also it'll be probably a link on our website. If teams want to pre-order lunches or pizza or something like that, just to give us an idea of numbers, they can do so. Otherwise, there will be, like I said, concessions available for people to purchase right there. And we're exploring the option of having a food truck there again this year. I'm not 100% guaranteed yet, but we did have one last year, and I'm told it was relatively popular. So we're going to see if we can do that again.
Do you remember what it was? Was it like poutine or?
I forget which truck it was, but I think what I saw people. I don't know if there's a sushi truck. That'd be awesome. But I saw a lot of people coming in with poutine, so at least that was definitely an option. So we'll see what we can do this year. It'll be in a team update email or on the website, but we'll see what we can do.
That's good. And are you selling either 4039 swag or First Canada swag?
No. Well, I mean, I'd be happy to do First Canada swag. I guess we should talk to you about that. But we at one point I think in our first year had event shirts available, but they weren't super popular, and it was hard to judge the numbers required. So we don't have event swag or team swag, but First Canada swag. Perhaps we can talk about that if that is an option.
Now I don't remember if you mentioned the date, and I forgot to put it down on here. I should have done that.
Oh, yes. It's November 3rd. So it's a week earlier than in previous years. Normally, this is actually the first year that all three off-season events have been in like consecutive weekends. There's always been a little bit more gap between them. There was always a 2-week gap between, I believe, Windsor and our event. But we moved it a little bit earlier this year. Last year, you might recall, it was the only weekend that we could host it just because of the field availability and when it had to go back, but it was also Remembrance Day. Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit of a conflict. Fortunately, we don't have that conflict again this year, but last year that did add an extra layer of challenge, but we adapted to it. We had our little Remembrance Day ceremony while we were there and that sort of thing, and it ended up pretty much okay in the end.
Well, that's good. That's the only one I haven't been to. I hear it's a great event, but I haven't made it to that one. Maybe we'll see this year. Not that you guys need any help from anybody. You run such a good event, as does Vance and as does the group that does Sherry Lynn's in Windsor as well. But thank you, Matt. And
you're welcome.
Good luck, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
So Sherry Lynn has texted me. You might have heard my phone beep during the webinar a few minutes ago. She's struggling to get on the webinar for some reason, technical issues. So she may not make it. So I'm going to provide some of the information as much as I know. So it is at Sandwich Secondary School. They've run it in a couple different places, and last year because of some issues with the colleges. The colleges were on, they had a walkout or a lockout, I should say, I believe. They couldn't host it at the community college in Windsor. So they hosted it at Sandwich Secondary, and it seemed to be so well received. It's a nice building, and it was a fun event. So I guess they've decided to continue that. I believe it started the same time as the Hamilton event, which was nice. I don't know if they have anything new this year. Well, new this year, I guess, is that it seems to have found a home there at at Sandwich. They get teams competing from all over the place. They've also had, as Matt was explaining about his event, they've also had last year, and I don't know if they are having it this year, but they like to do it if they can. Rookies who would be competing for the first time in 2019, but who would come and drive those robots, including one was a very successful Amazon Warriors one, the all-girls team that had all female mentors as well, and they made it to the World Championships in Detroit as well. So that was a great thing for them, but they've had many rookie teams do that as well. And one of the questions that asked, and Vance touched on a little bit, is why should teams go to an off-season event? Well, all you'd have to look at is the team that did so well last year from Windsor going to the World Championships. And I think 63-31, another team from Windsor, competed the year before as a rookie team in Barter Robot, and they've been very successful. So there's a lot of benefits to going if you can get your team to go. And I think, as Vance mentioned earlier, that it's surprising the kind of stress, a good kind of stress and tension and excitement that's a little bit different when you're actually competing than watching, and they get a taste of that. I really wish Sherry Lynn was on so she could answer this last question, which was, what sandwiches do they serve in the cafeteria at Sandwich Secondary? I still have no idea, but I'm sure they have, based on the name of the school, have an incredible variety of fun sandwiches. But I guess what will have to happen is you'll have to go. And I have been at that event, and it is a great event, as the Vic Park one is, and by all things I've heard about the Hamilton one, the STEMley Cup, it's also a fantastic event. If you do have any questions for any of those people, you can go on the First Robotics Canada website under events, and you'll see the events are listed there. And you can contact any of those people to find out more information, including exact locations, any volunteers that they still need, and what you can do about going and seeing the event with your team, by yourself, with your friends, etc. So a great opportunity for all the people that might want to be involved in that. Just a couple of other things before we go today. If you didn't know, the core values have been, I don't want to say rejigged, but I guess I did. But they've been reorganized, I suppose, so they apply to all of the 4 programs. First Lego League Junior, First Lego League, First Tech Challenge, and First Robotics Competition, so that they can be used by all of them. So there they are there. You'll see much more about them as we go through the course of the year. And one of the other things that is absolutely a huge focus, both from First headquarters, First in the United States and around the world, and especially in Canada, is equity, diversity, inclusion. We have a badge that we give out to people that complete the modules. So these 3 great modules created by First headquarters and Shelley Henderson, who's in charge of equity, diversity, and inclusion for First. And new this year there are 2 leaders in Canada who are going to be producing more information and talking about this and doing some presentations. Annika Pint, who is a First senior mentor here in Ontario, basically centralized in Toronto, and Phoebe Arcilla, who is an FSM and who has been heavily involved in diversity and equity in Alberta. So she's an FSM in Alberta. If you want to see more about this, you can click on the link that's here and it'll take you to the training modules. And at the end of those, you can print out the certificates, and then at a first event, you can show them to me or whoever happens to be in the swag tent, which is where the badges will be, and you can collect your badge. And if you do have any questions about that, you are welcome to contact me. Couple of things just to note as we head out today. The second event registration opens on October 11th, and again, it's good for a week. You'll pick a second event. I would strongly recommend making sure that you and your students know which ones that they can attend and when the holidays are, in terms of any special holidays like Easter and Passover and so forth, and also when the school holidays are in your area that might affect your participation, whether you'd have students there or not. Also on October 11th, we are going to do a special, because that's a Thursday, a special First Canada Ask the Experts webinar with Frank Merrick, who, as many of you will know, is responsible for the games that we play. And we'll have information not about the game, but you're welcome to ask him, and hopefully that there might be a slip. But we're going to have a chance to ask some questions, how they make the games, who's on that group that designs games and so forth. And you might have some specific questions about previous games if you were involved in First that you might want to ask Frank. Well, in any case, that concludes this week's webinar. Last week we had a question at the end of the webinar. I had actually forgotten and someone reminded me. It was John Hobbins, and it was won by Mike B from the brand new rookie team in Aurora. And that team has a number, and I'm just looking here to see what it is, and it's 7456. It's hard to believe that we're in the 7,000s, mid 7,000s now, but we are. This week's question was something that Matt had said in his presentation, and that had to do with they have a partner team along with 4039 that helps them out with the event, the STEMley Cup. If you can email me at this email address and tell me what is that team number, you could win a First Canada hoodie or quarter zip. So let me know. And if you do send me that information, send along your size as well, and I will let you know, and we'll make arrangements to get that to you. So once again, thank you to Matt Ciprietti, and thank you to Vance Scott. And I'm sorry that Sherilyn had such problems with technical issues and couldn't get on board for today. But thank you for editing our slides, Sherilyn, so that you can be a part of the presentation anyway. So again, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Vance.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And good luck with both your events, and good luck, Sherilyn, with the Southwest Invitational. And we'll see you at some of those events. And good night.